Hello and welcome to 1 Hour With, a show brought to you by Impulse Radio and Television Africa. This is our forecast series, Unlocking Africa's Trade Potential, where we explore the ideas, innovation, and leadership driving the continent's next phase of economic transformation. Today, we have the honor to be joined online by a visionary leader in smart mobility and logistics space, Mr. Justin Coetzee, who is the founder and CEO of GoMetro, a company at the forefront of reshaping how we move the good and people through Africa's city and trade corridor. So in this episode, we will approach the rise of the electric freight fleets across Africa and the real-world adoption challenges that they face. We also talk about the technology-driven solutions that are helping businesses transition to clean and more efficient fleets. And to close, we will approach the critical task of overcoming infrastructure and operational constraints in the electric vehicle logistics. So if you are a policymaker, business owner, or simply a transport part of the transport sector, is a show that you can miss. So we invite you to join us and to listen to this wonderful discussion with Justin. So I will welcome Justin and say hello. Justin, how are you?
Very good, and you?
How's your day?
Very good. Yeah, I mean, very productive, very busy.
So in which place of South Africa you are?
I'm based in Cape Town right now.
Cape Town. Okay. So we're live from Johannesburg, and I will start the discussion with finding out what is GoMetro, what are your purpose, your vision and objectives.
Yeah, so GoMetro is a mobility platform to manage commercial fleets, to help existing operations run more efficiently, whether it is truck or bus. We focus on commercial transport. And our vision is to have GoMetro be the platform you use to help electrify your fleet and transition to a clean energy fleet if you're a business, a city, or an institution.
Okay. For people who don't understand the jargon, can you put it like, what do you mean? When you speak about fleet, do you speak about train or which type of transportation?
Yeah, so we focus on bus and large truck.
Mm-hmm.
So logistics chains where you've got trucks moving goods, you've got trucks moving commodities, fuel, food. So our economies are run by trucks. Everything that you have today was brought to you by a truck at some point. And then in cities, we are helping a lot of cities across Africa introduce bus systems and helping to digitize the minibus and informal bus sector.
Mm-hmm. So what will you say is the current situation in terms of such way of transportation good and people in Africa? Is it good? Is it promising? Or is there no hope?
So I think Africa is a young population. Our economies are growing really, really quickly. We are seeing a lot of economic development, and the world needs our minerals, right? So the African economic outlook is very positive, whether it is demographic, resource, or industry. It's very positive to see the political situation maturing. We are post-colonial, so I think we're now really trying to build robust modern states across Africa. The great states are emerging. And so I think the outlook is really, really positive for the African economy. Where we've got barriers is around trade, it's around movement, infrastructure. Currently, our borders are very inefficient, and we have very limited ports that are very difficult to access. So I think it's not without its challenges and its limitations to growth, but I think the solutions are obvious. Where we've got a great opportunity is in the amount of sunshine and natural resources that we have here for us to have a clean energy revolution and a renewable revolution. And I think that there's also a great opportunity for us as African economies to not have a lot of our foreign exchange tied up in diesel purchases, but use our sunshine to drive our logistics chains and our transport chains. So we have a lot of foreign currency locked up in diesel purchases and diesel imports and fuel imports. And we think there is at GoMetro a massive opportunity over the next decade to help African economies move towards running on sunshine and not necessarily importing so much diesel and fuel and locking up so much foreign currency.
Thank you for that. You have led public transport innovation across the continent. What trends are you seeing globally and in Africa around electric fleet, this type of innovation? Sorry.
Yeah, no, we're very excited to see electric buses coming into the market at a very rapid rate. There are some fantastic products coming out of China, which are very, very affordable. So the price of an electric bus has dropped dramatically over the last few years. The price of chargers and all the supporting infrastructure is also dropping very, very rapidly. Battery prices are dropping very, very rapidly. And so I think that there's what's very positive is we're seeing electric bus projects launching in Nairobi, in Kigali, in Maputo. There's a natural gas bus projects launching elsewhere. So we're seeing a huge amount of bus projects launching across Africa, electric bus projects launching across Africa. Ethiopia has just bought a few tourist buses, the city sightseeing buses out of China, and they're all electric. So buses are very easy to turn into electric, and the cost benefits are huge because diesel is a significant cost for buses. So we think bus electrification is a fantastic opportunity.
So, but why now? Why this urgence now? And what are the potential benefits for developing urban economy?
So their products are now finally available. So for a very long time, electric buses were very, very expensive. They were 3 times the price of a diesel bus. Whereas now, with China's rise as an electric mobility manufacturer of note, a lot of those products are coming into the African market. So there's no longer a legacy. There's new brands, there's new products that are changing the economics. The total cost of ownership for electric buses are now outcompeting diesel. And so the economics, the numbers finally make sense. The product choice is there. And I think, I think we've realized that as African cities and the governments we speak to, the city governments, that launching a bus service and running a bus service is an absolute need in order for you to move the economy forward. And so for you to have workers arriving at work, scholars arriving at school, you need to be able to give them the cheapest way to access opportunities. And so bus services are having a bit of a renaissance, a resurrection across Africa.
So tell me, in terms of problem, what are the problems in Africa, logistic, in terms of operator, are facing, considering the shift to electric vehicle for the fleets?
So there's a few major issues in African logistics. One is border crossings take too long, and border crossings aren't digitized. So if we can digitize border crossings so that there's an ease of flow of goods, that will unlock enormous economic potential across Africa. You can spend up to a day at a border crossing, whereas that should be a few hours. So upgrading our border posts to be more digital, more automated, drive through with your license plate and your billing already digitally enhanced, that's a must for us to free up logistics chains. And then what we're also seeing is the goods that are arriving, or the products that are arriving, they can run small urban fleets, truck fleets, electric well. The products aren't there yet for long distance trucking. In the next few years, I think long distance trucking electric trucks will arrive, but electric trucks aren't in the market yet.
Okay, so are there unique adoption barriers such as policy, cost, technology in Africa in the African context that differ from, let's say, Europe and America?
Yeah, so I think there's a few. One is power supply. So some countries struggle to manage their base load for the current industrial needs and the needs, the power needs of their people already. So now if you add electromobility to that, you're going to have your grid collapse. You're going to have blackouts like crazy. So power provision is an absolute urgent need for governments to really invest in. And then once you generate the power, it doesn't help that the power might be sitting in the wrong place. So you're generating power at a big hydro dam, but you need the power in the capital city. So transmission lines and getting the distribution of that power is an important requirement. That again, there's huge scope for investment. And then once you're plugging in a vehicle, the draw could, it could make a whole city block go black. So it's really critical that we invest in power infrastructure urgently as an enabler for this. And the reason for this, for a government to really think about this, is I would ask any national government to think about how much dollars do they have to put aside every month to purchase diesel, to purchase fuel, to purchase the oil and the gas that's needed to run the economy. That investment, if you could shift that all to inbound solar, inbound renewable, there's a massive amount of economic development that's possible within the country, where you don't have to go and purchase as much fuel as is currently being purchased. So there's really a case where you can do this without new money. You don't need new budget. The budget is sitting there. It's in the energy transition that you can pay for this.
Okay, so how does your company approach change management within organizations reluctant or slow to adopt new mobility technologies, for example?
So we always start with the customer's data. So when a customer that we work with, whether they've got 100 buses, maybe they've got 50 trucks, we first plug in our telematics into their system, and we see how their vehicles run. And we see how long the distance is, the range. We look at the operation. Then we sit down with our customer and we show them, using our software called EV Fit, we show them, here's your operation today running diesel. It's costing you so much. The investment is what it is. And if you transition to electric, this is the number of electric vehicles you can purchase. This is the charges you purchase. Here's the energy cost. And your energy cost is much lower than the diesel cost. And this is how you can afford to transition without spending more money than you're spending today. So we really help our customers see on the board their own data, their own operations. And once they see their own operations, it opens the door for our customers to feel that it's possible. And so any logistics company, trucking company, shipping company, any bus company, any city that is watching this broadcast, I'd encourage them to go onto our website and fill out a short form, and one of our specialists can come and look at their operations and help them plan the transition. It's a multi-year investment. It's a big project. It doesn't happen quickly, but we find we can help our customers at least get started.
Yeah. So GoMetro is known for developing technology that optimize transport system. What are the most promising tech innovations supporting the move to electric fleets today?
Yeah, so whether we're running diesel fleets already, we're using our telematics to identify driver behavior, and that can immediately reduce risk by helping the driver drive more eco-friendly. He doesn't have to use his foot so much or his brakes so much. So we can already start helping fleets save significant amount of money on brakes and on fuel. And then what's really promising is the advance of AI. And we have a camera that we use in the dash to identify driver behavior, to identify whether the driver's alone, is there someone else in the cab with him, to look at when there's an incident, speeding or tailgating. AI can be used to diagnose it. And then as we help our customers advance across their operations, we're starting to use AI more and more to find efficiencies, because you feed it all this data and then the AI goes and finds the areas that we can improve.
So how can advanced data analysis and fleet management software accelerate the transition to the EV logistic?
It's all about freeing up money, right? So right now, a fleet is spending X on vehicles, X on drivers, X on fuel. Those are and maintenance. Those are you could say the four big costs. Fleet management isn't very complicated. You've got vehicles, you've got drivers, you've got fuel, and you've got maintenance. And so our data and our AI and our platform, it can help you look and say, do I need this many vehicles? Or can I have fewer vehicles? Do I need this many drivers, or could I have fewer drivers? Which of my drivers is costing more in fuel and needs training? Which of my drivers is pressing too hard on the brake and needs some training? And so our job at GoMetro is to help you save money on your existing investment in fleet so that money can be freed up to buy your first electric vehicle. So if you're spending, right now, today, let's say a company is spending $100,000 on transport, and we can help them save 10%. That $10,000 can go to an electric vehicle investment, and that transition can then begin. And our job is to help our customers do this without incurring additional expense, but rather using their existing investment in movement to do it more efficiently.
So to follow up, could you give us a practical example of a GoMetro project or tools that help city or company plot in course of toward electrification?
Yeah, so one of our customers were at a mine was looking at how to introduce electric vehicles, and the challenge that they had was that they needed to turn the vehicles around very quickly. So for them to park a truck for 4 hours and plug it in for 4 hours, while that truck is parking, they need to be running another truck. They can't have assets standing still. And so we help them find a truck that is a battery swap. And so the truck can stop for 5 minutes. The battery that's in there gets lifted out and put aside. A new full battery comes in, and within 5 minutes, it's moving again. And so helping that customer find the right technology for their problem meant that they now have electric trucks that can run and can run 24/7 for their mining operation. So that's an example of a customer that's really embraced electrification. Another customer I can think of already, they had an issue with tires and tire pressure, and they were having a lot of blowouts, a lot of breakdowns. It was one of their biggest problems. So we developed a little sensor called Connect Tire, which goes into the tire, and then in every single tire in that truck is giving us its temperature and its pressure every minute, wherever it is. And so we could we gave the customer a tool that he can see this tire pressure starting to drop. I need to phone the driver and I need to say, stop driving. That tire's got an issue. And so we've been able to stop breakdowns, have those tires running more efficiently. Your tires last longer, up to 30% longer because they're at the right pressure. Your fuel consumption drops by 7% because you've got the right pressures running. And you have fewer breakdowns, so you have less charges for breakdowns.
Yeah, that is amazing. So according to you, I want to find out what role do partnership with government or manufacturer and finance play in developing scalable AV solutions?
Yeah, so we're at this really interesting juncture of global geopolitical developments, right? We've got the climate crisis, we have this trade war going on, and here Africa sits in the middle, and everybody wants to both benefit from Africa's resources, but also potentially implement new ideas on a greenfield environment like an African city. And so there's a great potential for African policymakers, African economies to attract the world's innovators into their economies. So a perfect example of this is Zipline in Rwanda. Zipline is a global drone delivery company, but they started by delivering blood samples for testing in Rwanda, and then medical supplies in Rwanda with drones that they would launch off a slingshot. And so Rwanda invited this company in. This company perfected its product in the Rwandan ecosystem, employing Rwandans, training, having the very best global drone technology based in Rwanda. It's a fantastic success story of how a government can attract innovators into its space. And I see the opportunity in African economies everywhere where African policymakers, governments can invite innovators into their economy by providing regulatory support, by providing policy support, and just by inviting these innovators to come and build their products within the economy. I think a lot more of this can be done, and a lot of countries can follow the example of Zipline. So there's a way that we invite the world's talent into Africa to build businesses here in African economies. But then once those businesses are built, financing the expansion means that we need to find sources of capital. And so there are enormous amounts of development finance institutes, infrastructure banks. There's a lot of money that's looking for bankable projects and for infrastructure projects. And so what we see is there's a lot of funding for infrastructure projects, but there just is not enough bankable ready projects at scale. And so the finance is definitely there. It's the bankable projects that aren't. And my argument, I think, is that if we are the breeding ground and kind of we invite the world's innovators, then finance will follow. Finance follows innovation. And so we really need to make Africa the testing ground for the globe's entrepreneurs.
Speaking about startup and entrepreneurs, how should Africa entrepreneur and startup position themselves to enter and support the green mobile sector? How do you think they should?
Yeah, so we definitely need global partnerships. So all the products that we need to drive a major at-scale e-mobility revolution, all of those products right now are being made in China. And so the first thing that I'd advise any entrepreneur in Africa is build strong relationships and ties to the manufacturing base in China of chargers and vehicles. I think that's kind of number one, so that we can have access to who are the world's leaders in electromobility development. The second thing is that when those products come into Africa, they're not designed and suited for African conditions. So where we can have a huge role to play as African entrepreneurs in e-mobility is strengthening the engineering for the conditions, weather, roads, dust, climate, tropical degradation of electronics. There's a lot of future like Africa proofing that would create a barrier to entry for an African entrepreneur to take advantage of. And then the way that we consume services in an African context is very different, region by region, geography by geography. How things work in South Africa is very different to how it works in Nigeria, is very different to how it works in Kinshasa, is very different to how it works in Kampala. And so the opportunity to make the service localized in terms of payment integrations, how people consume, how they contract, how the local culture perceives a service, there's a huge opportunity to localize the delivery of that service. And then I think we've got to think big as African entrepreneurs. We very often just wait for permission to build big businesses. But I think over the last 10 years, we've seen some unicorns emerge that were built from scratch here. And we really have a big economy. We've got a big space to play. We've got a big canvas. So I think as African entrepreneurs, we do need to think big.
But do you believe that how to call it, movement like the free trade continental area will benefit your organizations in terms of also facilitate the exchange of knowledge to achieve on our soil such progress and innovation?
I think we're very good at legislative frameworks, and we're very good at agreements and pieces of paper. But until I can move, if I want to sell an electric bus or I want to sell a battery pack, if I can get that battery pack from Johannesburg to Kinshasa in 4 days, then I think we can take advantage of free trade. But if it takes me 14 days or 40 days,
Yeah,
then, I mean, what good is free trade if my goods are stuck at every single border crossing
yeah.
every single time, and I've got 14 borders to cross?
Wow.
I think that free trade and the free trade agreement is a fantastic framework, but the only way we take advantage of it is to accelerate our border crossings and our ports. You know, free trade is useless if your goods are sitting stuck somewhere and we actually need them somewhere else.
Okay, correct. Okay, let's move on. So we know that the major operational problem in the AV logistic is infrastructure. Charging network, grid capacity, road quality. What I want to find out is what strategy are needed to address those on national and city level.
Mm-hmm. So I think at a national level, it starts with power generation, and then power distribution, and then or transmission, and then distribution. And each one of those is a different problem that needs to be solved. So we need enough power, we need it transmitted to the right areas of the country, and then the distribution network to the actual site needs to be strong. The grid itself needs to be strong. And I think every country across Africa needs to rethink its generation, transmission, and distribution strategies with electric vehicles in mind, because it's going to take a big load on. Luckily, it's not going to be a one-off investment like a big smelter or a big mine where there's a big power draw. It's going to be incremental, and it's going to happen in step changes. So there is time for us to think about generation, transmission, and distribution, but that is really an urgent need for each country to adopt. Ethiopia is a fantastic example of a forward-looking country that has mapped out its electric grid planning with EVs in mind, so much so that they've had the confidence to ban the purchase of ICE vehicles from 2020 onwards, and that you can only now import or sell EVs in Ethiopia, which is an incredibly aggressive and progressive stance, and one which is leading the continent. With regards to local cities and local governments, planning approvals, and regulatory approvals is where there's a lot of need for improvement, as well as then the cities themselves have fleets that can electrify. And so there's an ability to catalyze an investment in the EV economy. The opportunity for everyone is that this is a whole new economic sector that's opening up, and so there's fantastic opportunities for countries to have economic growth, businesses to modernize, new businesses to be started, and entire new sectors to employ hundreds and hundreds of people over the next few years.
So what are some of the technical and operational difference between managing an electric freight fleet and a traditional diesel fleet? So that, yeah, we can make it clear for the people.
That's a fantastic question. I love this question. So what I often find when I start working with business owners that have been running vehicles for a long time is it's almost like diesel's in their blood, and they just know how diesel works. They know where to go and pump it. They know where to go find it. They know the price of the liter of diesel in each town across the country. They also know that the filters must last 2 years, and so there's this enormous amount of expertise in diesel. It's very different when you move to electric. And one of the mistakes I often see businesses make is they think that they must take the diesel tank that's 100 liters or 50 liters, and the range is 500 kilometers, and then they must go and buy an electric vehicle where the range is the same as the diesel vehicle. And so what happens is then they look at the price and they're like, oh, this is too expensive, because they still have this mind of like thinking in diesel tanks. And so what the biggest difference is that you work in a smaller tank. So the range is not 500 kilometers necessarily, it's 200 kilometers. And the fact is that you can actually plug this in. You can build your own little diesel depot anywhere in your operation, which means you can build a little diesel depot here, like an EV equivalent there. And so you're able to support much smaller ranges because you've got opportunities to charge everywhere you go. So the first thing I think that the big mindset shift is, rather than 500 kilometers range, I can actually do the same job with 200 kilometers range. I'm just going to be charging in between because I can charge anywhere in my operation. That reduces the cost significantly. The second big change then is just owners don't believe that maintenance is so low. You know, you're moving from a technology that's got 2,000 moving parts to one that's got 20 moving parts. And you and I both know that diesel is not always the cleanest anywhere in Africa. You know, sometimes you buy a dirty diesel, and so your diesel filter gets clogged up. You don't have a electric filter or a filter of any sort on an electric vehicle. You've got 20 moving parts, and so your maintenance drops dramatically. Your maintenance cost drops dramatically. Your workshop requirements drop dramatically. And then the last aspect of this is around changing your mind from liters per kilometer and dollars per liter to dollars per kilowatt and kilowatts per kilometer. And what is a kilowatt? So there's a bit of a new language to learn. But other than that, it's a lot simpler. It's a lot easier. It's a lot safer, cleaner. And the advancements of technology that's happening in the EV space is unbelievable. So in terms of what's possible today, in 6 months' time, things are cheaper and they are better. So it's almost like, you know, remember in the old days with your cell phone, you used to have like buttons, a little screen, then it was a bit bigger, then a bit bigger. It's almost like EVs, you know, we are pretty much leaving the Nokia 3310 era, and we're just starting with BlackBerry, but we're about to get like the
I see. It's a long way. It's a long way to go. So what do you think the policies should be in terms of this sector? So what can you tell us?
So I think that national policy around energy needs to really be rethought with e-mobility, as we've discussed. Policy around import tariffs and import duties needs to be, I think, much more aggressive towards encouraging commercial vehicles, because basically governments need as many vehicles as possible to be electric so that we can stop buying oil and diesel in dollars from countries outside of Africa. And so the government almost needs to sacrifice the import duty on the electric vehicle, you know, make it zero for 3 years. But people are going to so many people are going to buy electric vehicles that after 3 years, you're gonna have a huge saving in diesel purchases as a country. So that's my big message to governments is, look at how much money you're spending buying energy and importing energy into your country. Electric vehicles can make your country energy secure. It uses a natural resource you already have called sunshine, and it can power your economy and de-risk your like the amount of dollars that you need to keep in the bank to buy diesel and oil. So it's a huge shift, and it does mean maybe you sacrifice tariffs. The second thing I'd encourage every city mayor that is maybe listening to this, or any advisor, anyone who advises a city mayor across Africa, is go to China. China has this thing called the mayor economy. Mayors of cities in China have budgets, and they've got the ability to invest in opportunities, but they really need to meet the other mayor. So if you are an advisor or you are a mayor and you're listening to this, go to China yourself, go and meet mayors, and you may just find economic partners, you may just find funders, and you may come back with home with a lot of projects and a lot of opportunities. And then with regards to electric policy, I don't think need to subsidize business owners and business operators the way that Europe subsidized people to purchase EVs. People are going to make the decision that's best for their pocket. And that decision, without the import duties and with charging networks being available, people are going to decide to buy electric cars because it makes the most economic sense. And we don't necessarily need to offer subsidies to you and me. We don't need to offer subsidies to business. People will make their own decisions based on their pockets.
Perfect. What investment or public-private partnership are required today to make sustainable EV logistics truly viable for the continent?
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously a economic transition doesn't come free and it doesn't come cheap. So governments need to put significant budget into 5-year and 10-year plans around industrial strategy, import strategy, power upgrades, and then also look at funding and supporting charging hubs and charging investments, because it's those investments that will catalyze the economy. And so, in terms of planning how to do this, a significant amount of investments required up front, but that investment can be mobilized from infrastructure funds, from development banks, and often when I work with development banks and I work with infrastructure funds, they're just waiting for governments to invite them in to help and to invite them in to advise. And it's as simple as just writing a letter asking for a meeting with international funders that are looking for green projects. There is a shortage of green projects on this continent. There is not a shortage of funding, finance, and money. And the opportunity is to find a partner to help you fund the capital expenditure of vehicles, charges, and some of the transition costs. But the long-term benefits of being able to run on sunshine means that you can think about this in a 10 to 20-year horizon. We've seen great success in solar projects, great success in renewable projects, and it's a similar basis that the EV transition can be thought of as an infrastructure upgrade.
So on that note, can you highlight a case study or a pilot where GoMetro helped overcome one of those infrastructure or operational barriers?
Yes. Yeah. So in South Africa, we're busy working on a very exciting project. It is an electric charging hub for the minibus taxi sector. So in South Africa, we've got the 13-seater vans, 13 to 15 seats, that are all privately owned. They've got different names across Africa, right? So they're called, I think, Trotros in Ghana. They're called Danfos in Nigeria. They're called Matatus in Kenya. So what we've got is a hub that we're building that will allow operators who want to purchase an electric van to come and plug in at this charging hub. So they don't need a charger at home. They don't need to buy a charger or have a fast charger. They can come and use this hub that is centrally located at the transport terminal, and be able to plug in. That allows them to purchase the vehicle and not have to purchase a charger, because they know that they can charge at the local hub. And it's a model that can work really well pretty much anywhere in Africa, because these hubs are central meeting points of these vehicles. And so if you build electrification infrastructure at these hubs, owners can have confidence to transition and start buying electric buses and electric vans. So this is one place where we think it's a repeatable model, and we're piloting it here in South Africa, but we think that we can roll this out across the country as well as then roll this out across the continent.
So thank you for your time. But before I let you go, I would like to hear from you your final word in terms of the AV for the African continent. What do you think people should do regarding this new and innovative sector?
Yeah, so I think they definitely need to reach out to us at GoMetro, and we can help them on that journey. We can point a lot of entrepreneurs in the right direction. I think it's important to just start, so whether you want to start introducing electric motorbikes, or if you want to start introducing sedans, or if you want to play in the sector, you only learn by doing in the EV transition. And so if you're a business owner, buy your first electric truck and just learn by doing. If you're an entrepreneur, this really is one of the biggest economic opportunities of your lifetime. It's the same as like mobile phones from 10 years ago, mobile networks from 15 years ago. It's the same scale and size of opportunity. This is an enormous economic opportunity, but it only happens to those who are on the playing field. So I would say to anybody, just get started.
And that is the wrap up for today's episode. We thank Mr. Justin for sharing his experience and vision on this electric future and freight and logistics in Africa. So we wish you a good Easter holiday and see you maybe soon for more in-depth discussion in this viable sector for the growth of the trade corridor in Africa.
Thank you so much.
And that's wrap up another powerful episode of 1 Hour With here on Impulse Radio Television Africa. A big thank you to Mr. Justin Coetzee, CEO of GoMetro, for sharing his experience and vision on electric future and freight and logistics in Africa. As well, we have heard today the shift toward electric freight is not only possible, it is necessary. But it requires the right blend of policy support, infrastructure, investment, and smart, scalable technology solution. To all our viewers and listeners across Africa and the diaspora, thank you for joining us. Let's keep diving in the conversations that matter and working together to unlock real opportunity for the growth, sustainability, and share prospectivity on the continent. Don't forget, this episode will be available on demand across all our platforms. Follow Impulse and Television Africa to stay updated on the next edition of our podcast series, Unlocking Africa Trade Potential. Until next time, stay informed, stay inspired, stay connected. This is 1 Hour With, your window into Africa future.